Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's session, Yammer, M365 Groups and Sites Provisioning with Syskit-Point. My name is Patrick and I'm a sales manager here at Syskit. Joining me today are Alexandra, our product designer, and Hrvoje, our product development lead. Today we are going to show you how you can use Syskit-Point provisioning templates to help you avoid Microsoft 365 sprawl and ensure policy compliance from the beginning of the workspace lifecycle. We will also give you a glimpse into other tracking and governance improvements, such as support of sensitivity labels. For those who don't know about Syskit, we are a software development company that was founded more than 11 years ago. We develop products for Office 365 governance, as well as administration and monitoring solutions for SharePoint on-prem. Syskit currently has more than 3,000 customers worldwide, and some of them are very famous names, as you can see on our slide. We currently have 5 products, including our award-winning ASP.NET Kit for on-prem documentation, and of course, Syskit-Point for Office 365 governance and security. For those that are new to the tool, Syskit-Point is a comprehensive Microsoft 365 governance solution created for admins and business users to easily govern their workspaces from a single pane of glass. This includes Microsoft 365 inventory, access reporting, governance policy enforcement, complete lifecycle management, analytics and usage metrics, proactive security alerting, and more. Now, a reminder that all registrants will receive a recording of the session within a few days. If you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature in GoToWebinar anytime during the session, and we will be happy to answer them. Let's jump right into the presentation. Alexandra and Hrvoje, are you ready?
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick.
Hey.
Thank you for the introduction. We are ready to hit it off. And you already introduced me, but once again, I'm Alexandra, I work as a product designer here at Syskit, and I'm really excited to be here today to show you what we have done in the latest update of Syskit-Point. And to emphasize once again, I'm happy that we managed to do it with a lot of your feedback. So please continue to share it with us in order to further improve our product.
Hi, my name is Hrvoje. I'm a product development lead here at Syskit, and I'm really excited to show you what the team has been doing over the summer.
Right. So let's just jump right into our presentation for today. Before we begin, obviously, I'll let you go through the agenda briefly. So first, we will talk about provisioning. We are now supporting new workloads in our feature. Then we'll mention our new feature, metadata, how you can actually empower your users to add additional data during the provisioning process that you can then use further for your reportings. Then we'll move on to the sensitivity labels. As Patrick told you, we'll talk a bit about how you can use them, or actually, if you're already using it, how you can combine them with Syskit-Point and make the most of your governance policies. Then Hrvoje will show you our new Syskit-Point Power BI companion app, and then we'll talk about a few minor improvements, as well as show you what's next on our roadmap. All right, before we move on with the updates we did on provisioning feature in our latest version, let me just tell you a bit about the main idea of implementing workspace provisioning in your organization. As I'm pretty sure you're well aware, every IT person that's working with Microsoft 365 services is trying to maintain the environment clean, make sure users are focused and productive. And once you have made this rather significant investment in this technology, it's quite clear that you want to drive the adoption. You want your employees to actually use it. And that's when companies tend to enable self-service, so users can create teams, groups, and sites as they want, which is great to increase the adoption. However, if it's completely uncontrolled and if it's used without the proper governance wrapped around it, it has a potential to become a bit chaotic. And this cluttered environment is actually something that gets you to the opposite of what you wanted, since it decreases your users' productivity. You can actually stop that if you focus on creating a simple and sustainable process for creating new workloads. So we in Qiskit see provisioning as an proactive action, which is aimed towards taking control over the process of creating new workspaces in your environment in order to prevent the above-mentioned sprawl, but without sacrificing the adoption. So by following Qiskit Point's provisioning process, what you're actually doing is increasing your overall workspace security. You can also integrate access reviews and other policy enforcement automations. You're optimizing collaboration in your company. And last but not least, you're taking off and reducing a lot of pressure from your IT teams that used to be the ones completely in charge of either creating or approving new workspaces. So let's go into how the process actually looks like in Qiskit Point. So obviously it starts with the first step, which is template creation, and that is something that is done by your Qiskit Point administrator in Qiskit Point web application. So the admin has a lot of customizable fields. We will show it to you later in a demo, so I will not go into each one of them, but you definitely have all the power to create a really, really meaningful template here. Then your end users are sending a request for new workspaces, but in a Qiskit Point Teams app. That is something they're mostly using probably every day, so they're familiar with Microsoft Teams interface, and we believed that it was easier for them to do it via the Teams app, so that's why we created another one for them to send requests in. Next, that leads us to the approval. So the requested workspace has to be approved either by a single user, which can be a manager of that requester or your IT person if you wish so, or by a group of users. We also have multi-stage approvals for some sites, teams, or groups with more sensitive content, which we will also show you later on in our demo. Finally, if the request is approved, the new workspace gets automatically created and it becomes a part of your environment. Finally, all the newly created workspaces already have, like from the beginning of their life cycle, they already have proper governance wrapped around them, meaning you can enable periodic access reviews and other policy enforcement right from the beginning. As you probably know, in our last update, we introduced it for Microsoft Teams, and now we actually ensure you to provision SharePoint sites, Microsoft 365 groups, as well as Yammer communities. And all of these workspaces can have proper governance wrapped around them. As I already told you, you can define policies for regular access reviews, you can define ownership, you can regulate naming conventions, and so on. But before we jump into the provisioning demo, there is one more thing we added in this release, and it's the metadata. This was something that a lot of our users requested, and we are very happy to say that we have added it in this version. So when your user is submitting a request for a new workspace in your environment, you can now ask them to input additional data, such as who is the primary and secondary contact and which department will use this workspace. And why is this actually important? Obviously, you can use all the data you obtain from your users for reporting and make more informed decisions. For example, let's say that you have regular access reviews enabled in your environment. If you're following the best practices, most probably your workspaces have more than one owner. For example, you might have an IT person and a business owner or a few of them in a certain team and site. And if you define the primary contact, you can actually make the one person responsible for all the content on that workspace. And that person will then have to periodically validate members, guests, confirm end of life for that workspace, and so on. In case this person is unavailable, if you have defined a secondary contact, all the tasks will escalate to the secondary contact. And by doing all of that, what you're actually doing is avoiding the potential diffusion of responsibility and also improving the overall efficiency of these governance tasks. In addition, we have also added the terms and condition field, which is fully customizable. And that field is something you will create for your users to read and accept when they are submitting a request for a new workspace. You can see on the slide what it looks like. So as I told you, it's optional. You can decide whether you would like to include it or not. And then you have a condition text, which means that you can input, for example, You can add some links, you can ask your users to click on your privacy policy, read it, and only when they confirm it, they will be able to create a new workspace. But let's continue to our demo. As I promised, it's time to actually see all this in action. So Hrvoje, are we ready for a demo?
Yeah, I believe so we are. So let me start by sharing my screen. So for these purposes, I'm gonna put on my administration hat. So for this demo, I'm gonna be an IT administrator using SysKit-Point to create template, and then later on, Alexandra as an end user will try and to create, in our example, one SharePoint site. So as Alexandra already mentioned, we added some cool new features to our provisioning engine. And let's go here for governance, and I go here for the provisioning. As you can see now, we have a lot more of these templates, and then you can also see that you can filter on these different workspaces that we added. So Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365 groups, Yammer, and sites. I want to create a new template. So I'm going to here jump into creation of a new template, and I'm going to create a new SharePoint site, because this is going to allow me to showcase all the different things that we added in this version. So I'm going to start here by creating a SharePoint site template. And the first thing that I need to do is I need to provide a name. So I'm going to use it as a public communication site. I'm going to describe my template so my users know why they're choosing this template. Company, and then I can choose a site template. And this is pretty much similar as what we have with the Microsoft Teams. We are allowing companies and environments where they have set up different templates, site templates in this example, to be used inside of the SysKit-Point to just enhance the experience for our users. So we pull all the different SharePoint site templates from the tenant, and then we show it here for the admin to choose and present it to end users. So in this example, I'm just going to stick with the communication site, but you can specify everything that you want. So the next step is the big one. This is where the IT admin can decide on how the ownership and membership of this newly created site is going to be created. So the first thing that we need to define is the primary site collection admin, and this is something that is built into the SharePoint. And for example, in my case, I want an IT administrator to be the primary site collection admin, so that person takes care of my newly created site. In that case, I'm just going to use my Adele. She's going to be my IT administrator. I'm not going to need additional site collection admins. I'm going to leave that to Adele to sort it out. So, and I'm not going to allow my end users to specify anything. So I set it up of everything for them. So for the site owners, I'm just going to leave my requester, so the end user that is requesting a new SharePoint site, I'm expecting that person to be the business owner of this newly created SharePoint site. I'm going to leave it here as a predefined owner, and I'm going to allow requester to add additional owners if the need is there. So in a sense, I can delegate some of these responsibility to my end users, or I can also predefine things for them. And then for the site members, I think it's pretty natural to allow them to choose their members, and they know their business needs better than an IT admin, so they can use it here. And as Alexander already mentioned, we added this primary and secondary contact, and I'm just going to use this option here for my template, and this is going to allow me to ask my end users. I'm just going to ask my end users to provide who's going to be a primary contact for this, in this case, new public communication site. And then we're later on going to see how that looks in our interface. But I'm using that option just to make sure that there is no diffusion of responsibility going on. I'm not going to turn on the secondary contact for this example. And then I go next. And here we also see the other thing that we added, and these are the sharing settings. So the sharing settings is something that is set up on the SharePoint site level, and then you can set it up as an IT admin would like. So we do not allow end users to change this setting during the creation phase, because we believe that the IT admin should decide on who can access the content there, and how can end users share that content. So for example, in this case, I'm not going to use anyone. I'm just going to use new and existing guests because this is a public communication site for my company, and I'm happy with this setting. As we know, these settings can be configured on tenant in such a way that you do not allow anyone new existing guests as an option at all. And the Siskit point is gonna connect to your tenant, find out what settings are supported, and gonna allow it here. So in this example, I have everything allowed, and I'm gonna use new and existing. And the other thing that I want to focus here in my demo is these terms and conditions. So these terms and conditions can be used in a number of different ways. And what we also allow users is to use this, or IT admins is to use this condition text as some kind of education for our end users, because maybe they do not understand the implications of creating a new public site, or even in that sense, it's better to talk about public teams because everybody can enter the private teams. So I'm just going to copy paste some text that I prepared from before, just to showcase what I can do here. So I'm just going to enter this kind of text here, and I can format it a bit. So for example, creating public sites, you're allowing your own company to access these resources. I'm educating my users on what they can and cannot do. And then I can also link different policies that I have inside of my organization. So in this example, I'm just going to use bing.com, but you can put any kind of URL or any kind of SharePoint file or document that is describing these things. Or even I can use some kind of database folder where there is education material from Microsoft 365, and I want my end users, when requesting that, to confirm that they actually read those data. So I'm going to just put it here. I confirm that the end user must confirm that they understand the implication of creating a public site, and I can also see here the preview how it's going to look. So this is basically what it's going to look for our end users. We're going to see it in action later on when Alexandra requests a new SharePoint site. But this is a way that you can educate and maybe point out some of these difficulties for your end users as well. So I'm going to click here next. And I'm going to talk a bit about these governance policies because they are really important. And this is a thing that we recommend everybody to just select one. So for example, in my use case, I really like the external sharing to be reviewed in our governance according to our company's policies. So I have my external sharing policy already set up. I'm going to use it for this template so that I know that from the beginning of the life cycle of this SharePoint site, the external sharing is going to be regularly reviewed. I'm going to click confirm, and I have it here. What we also improved in this version, I'm going to show it here, is our approval process. So in the past, you could only select users here, but now you can use security, distribution, Microsoft 365 groups, and Microsoft Teams as well. So for example, if I edit here one kind of a group, so this blue icon represents Microsoft 365 group. This means that I can add those groups to receive this approval request, and then they can approve it or reject it based on their needs. So in this example, I do not want anything fancy as that. I just want my manager to see this approve request, and then manager can approve or reject as needed. So I'm going to create this template. So my template here is created. This is it from my IT administrator part of the job. Now I'm going to give it to Alexandra to show you how it looks for our end users. Alexandra, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Hrvoje. All right, just please confirm when you see my screen. Right. Yeah, good. So right now I'm, as Hrvoje told you, in the end user's shoes. My name is Kork. I just got to work, open my Microsoft Teams, and I see a Siskit point in ZAP that was pinned here by my administrator. So what I would like to do is send a request for a new SharePoint site, and I just go ahead and click on new request. On the first step here, you're actually seeing, or me as Kork, only the templates that Hrvoje created for me. So for example, if you do not have the need in your company to have templates for Microsoft 365 groups or Yammer communities, you will only, your end users will only see the templates that you created, for example, for Microsoft Teams and SharePoint sites. Additionally, since your users often, they know what they want to do, but maybe are not fully informed about how and with which workspace they can do something, we have added these descriptions. So every time that they click on a certain workspace, they can see all the services that they will get when creating a certain workspace. For this case, I'm well aware that I would like to create a new SharePoint site, and I will go ahead to the next step. Here I'm seeing all of the templates that my administrator, in this case Hrvoje, has prepared for that. And I will just go ahead and click on this one that we just saw in action. All right, so first thing, again, I need to input some name, then give some description for this site. And as you can see, Adele is already defined as a primary site collection admin. I cannot add additional administrators, I cannot change it. And if I hover over it, I will see that this value was set by my administrator. So I'll just move on to the next part, which includes sites owners. Hrvoje actually in the template decided that the requester, in this case, me as a Cork, will be predefined as an owner, but I can also add additional people. So I'm going to go ahead and add Jonathan as well here. And then again, it's up to me to decide which users I would like to add as members of my new site. Once you're happy with that step, you can continue to the next stage. And on this screen, you're actually seeing the primary contact field. So I need to choose the person that is responsible for the management of this site because Hrvoje led that decision completely to me as a requester. So I'm just going to go ahead and add myself as a primary contact. And then you can also see what these terms and conditions we just created in the SiskitPoint web application look like to our end user. So I cannot go ahead and request a new site before I have actually confirmed that I understand these implications of creating a public site. Then I will just move on and go ahead to request a new site, and I will wait for Hrvoje to approve it. But in this case, we will just move on back to our presentation. We're not going to wait for his approval. All right. Moving on. Let's talk a bit about sensitivity labels. So this is our next topic. I'm going to try to show you how you can keep a closer eye on your sensitive content. All right. So sensitivity labels are a part of Microsoft Information Protection Solution. And as you know, they're a great way to classify your data across your organization and make sure it has the right protection based on that classification. It is really a great way to prevent accidental or non-accidental sharing, and all of that is possible by not decreasing your users' productivity and collaboration, which is something you definitely want. What we did here in Siskit is we integrated sensitivity labels in SiskitPoint in order for you to get all the benefits from sensitivity labels, but combined with Point's ease of management. When I talk about benefits, what I mean is, let's say for an example, one use case, sensitivity labels are a great way to decide that there will be no guest users allowed on specific teams. So if you, for example, have a team where you communicate with some external vendors, you do not want to have that implied. But if you would talk about finance teams with departments that have more confidential data, it is much better to mark them as confidential and to disable guest users on those. Other settings you can easily manage include privacy settings, external sharing, as well as access from unmanaged devices. And all of that actually means that you can take the appropriate actions on content that you find more confidential than some other. And SiskitPoint is here to assist you in applying those sensitivity labels, but at the very beginning of a workspace's lifecycle, without the fear of owners additionally changing them. For example, if you set in your provisioning template certain settings regarding privacy, the workspace gets created, it's completely in line with your template, but your users can actually change the settings afterwards. But if you combine provisioning with sensitivity labels, you are making sure that your security settings remain intact throughout the entire workspace's lifecycle. Let's jump into another quick demo. Hrvoje, could you show us how we incorporated sensitivity labels in provisioning templates and maybe how it boosts the reporting in SiskitPoint?
Absolutely. So let's start by going to the beginning of the life cycle, so to the provisioning part. So here I am once more at my provisioning templates, and I'm just going to try to edit to the template that I created before. So let's click on it. So I'm going to stick with everything, but I don't know if you noticed before, we have this sensitivity label options here. So I can turn on this option, and this is going to allow me to, I would say, use the sensitivity label with this template. And the way the Qiskit point works and how we envision it is that we are not going to allow your end users to choose a sensitivity label at creation level, at creation point of time, I guess, because we want it to be with the template applied. So why is it? Why we did it that way? So for example, if I have this public communication site, probably I do not want to have any kind of sensitivity label, sensitivity data on it. I want it to be just something that I can share freely inside of my company. But for example, if we are talking about some kind of finance sites or finance teams and stuff like that, we want to be sure that the correct sensitivity label is applied at the beginning. So for example, if we think about this template as a template that's going to be used for those kind of resources, then assigning, for example, here confidential sensitivity label makes a lot of sense. And in this way, you ensure that no matter what happens, this sensitivity label is going to be applied to this newly created team. So how we support sensitivity labels at Qiskit Point is we support it on this, we call it container level, but that means that all the SharePoint sites, Microsoft 365 groups, and Microsoft Teams are going to be, you're going to be able to assign labels to those resources. So in such a way, you ensure from the beginning of the life cycle of your resources that the correct sensitivity label is applied according to your company governance policies. So in this example, of course, as we are talking about a public communication site, I don't want sensitivity labels, so I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm just going to click X. So this is at the beginning, but what we can actually do with these labels, I'm going to show it in a sense on how we can improve our reporting. So for example, if I got a request from my compliance team that they want to see where the sensitivity labels are applied, I can go to sites, and we have, okay, so let's reset the view. I can use here, choose a column chooser. I can select sensitivity labels, and I can get a new column that is going to tell me what sensitivity labels I'll apply to what resource, and then I can filter on it. So if I click confidential, it's going to filter out, and then I can do reporting with this. I can schedule, I can send a PDF to my compliance team. So for example, but compliance teams have a new request for me. They want to know who has access to these confidential data. I can do that using powerful reporting inside of the Qiskit Point. So if I go here to Report Center, and if I use my permission metrics, that's going to tell me who has access to what. I can do the same thing. I can use the column chooser here as sensitivity labels. It's going to give me sensitivity labels column. I can select on it, and then I can select all the resources that have confidential label applied, and then I can run report. And in such a way, in a fast way, with a couple of clicks, I get these reports that are going to tell me and my compliance team who has access to this really sensitive data. And in such a way, you can be sure that everybody who needs to have access to this actually do have access. So this is the way that here at Qiskit Point we support sensitivity labels. You can ensure it at the beginning of the life cycle, and then you can do powerful reporting afterwards on it. So this is all for the demo on sensitivity labels. I'm just going to jump into my presentation and talk about a new important feature that we added in this version. So this is the Power BI Companion app. So a couple of months ago, I announced that the Qiskit Point is going to be a Microsoft Azure application, so that we are going to cloud. We're not going to be on-premise anymore. And then I said that we are going to try to support more different user experiences for our customers. And the first thing that initiative came. So we released Power BI Companion app. So today, if you go to Power BI Marketplace and search for Siskit, you're going to get a Siskit Power BI Companion app. And we are really excited here at Siskit because this is only the first of these things that are going to allow us to integrate our application better with the whole Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So what does the Siskit Power BI Companion app actually do? So what we decided to do is we decided to expose different data that we collect inside of Siskit to a Power BI. And this is and why we did it is because we collect a lot of data around permission and the who has access to what, and also we collect a lot of this analytics data. And we decided that, and we know from some of our customers that they have in-house business intelligence officers, people who are creating these business intelligence reports, and they like to play around with the data, and Power BI is an excellent tool for that. So what we allow them is to just connect PowerPoint, Siskit Power BI Companion app, and then use that data to create their own reports. But not only that, we also try to just ship some of the cool reports that we have inside of Siskit to Power BI. So you're going to see that a lot of data that you see in Siskit, your web application, you're going to be able to see it in a Power BI application as well. So we moved everything. Of course, there's a lot of data that is maybe more suitable to the way it's represented in Power BI, and I'm later going to show that in a demo. So you're going to be able to see some of the data that you do not see inside of the Siskit web application. On the other hand, what Power BI Companion app looks like, it's more targeted towards our, we call it them administrator people, so the people who has access to everything, because in the Power BI you do not get these powerful features that we have in Siskit web application, such as collaborators. So people only see the data that they have access to. In Power BI you see everything. So you probably want that to be used by people who need to have access to everything. In this first version, we mostly focused on what we are best at, and that's permission reporting. So you're going to see a lot of these different permission reports, inventory reports on what do you have inside of your environment. We introduced some of the analytics reports currently, but this is some field that we're looking to expand to have major expansion in the future. So to stop talking about Siskit Power BI Companion and to show it, I'm just going to jump into my demo here. Let me just pull my Siskit Power BI Companion. So if you go to Siskit, if you go to Marketplace and find the Siskit Companion app, you install it, and you have to set up your database in such a way that the Power BI can access it. It takes a couple of, I would say, 10 minutes to set everything up, and then you get this nice view here. As you can see, these first 6 tiles are the same thing that you can see in Siskit today in the web application, but we have some additional data as well. But let's first focus on what is the same. So if I go here to my site, I get the same experience as I would get inside of the Siskit web application. I get a total number of sites. I can use the tiles above to filter down on it, and I can also drill down. So if I go here to auditors, I have to right click it and just drill down to site details. And on site details, I get reports that we are used to seeing in Siskit web application. So I get the analytics and usage, permissions, content, and some general ID. The thing to note here, and this is one of the differences, of course, between the Power BI that has this flat reporting. You're going to see here flat reporting, and then you're not going to see this tree-like structure that you can see in Siskit web application, because there we have a lot more freedom with what we can use as a way to show our users what's going on. In Power BI, these flat reports are more to Power BI like. So you get a different view on the same data depending on what interface you are using. So of course, the same goes for our users. You get all the users. You get these nice icons to see who's external user, who is disabled, and stuff like that. So as you can see, we try to keep all the data the same. And you can also here, I can go drill down and go to my user details. So there's a lot of the same things that you can get inside of Power BI Companion app. But there is also additional reports, and let's just jump into our sites dashboard. That's going to show me data in a different way, in a way that you're not going to be able to see it in Siskit Point web application. So you get the sharing setting, how it's set up in a way, in a more graphical way, and then you can see all the sites here and all lifetime hits. We also try to use the Power BI to its best. So if I go here to my sites, I can use my filters and to try to find out different data around it. So you can see here, for example, is my state alive? Is it archived using our archive capabilities? Is it hard deleted or soft deleted? So you can get different reports depending on your needs. So in such a way, the Power BI Companion app is quite powerful. So, and the report that I like the most is maybe these alerts, because this is the great thing to do, because we are giving you analytics on how the Siskit Point is actually behaving. So you get a basic idea on your alerting and how it's set up, and it depends on how you set up alerts inside of your environment, but you can get nice idea of how many created teams do you have, how many downloaded file, access files, and stuff like that. So, and these access files may be some of your secure files, so you want to be sure how often your confidential files are accessed. So in such a way, it's going to allow us to expand on these analytics in future, I believe. So this is one way that you can use the Power BI Companion, and the other similarly strong, I would say, a way is to use it so here in Siskit Point, you can use a data source that we created to create your own reports. So if I here create from scratch, and it's going to open this Power BI designer for me, and then if I'm a Power BI person, I can create new reports, and I can correlate this data with something that I already have built. So we're going to allow users to use our data around permissions, around analytics with their own data sets that they have, and they can create even more powerful reports. So we're looking forward to releasing this and see how our users are going to use it, and we're looking to expand on it. So yeah, this is it from the Power BI Companion app, and now I'm just going to return back to my presentation, and I'm just going to go over a couple of minor, or maybe not some minor improvements that we did in the last couple of months. So the first thing that I want to mention is this privacy change alert, and this is important for us because if you're, for example, using a Siskit Point provisioning engine, and then you set up your teams to be private, and then the team is created, and then owners, of course, can change privacy of the group, and they want to share something with somebody or something, and they go on the internet, and somebody says to them, well, yeah, just change the privacy of group from private to public, and then they do that. And what they've actually done is just created unwanted information leaks, because everybody in company can then join that group, and then they can access all the documents inside of it. So this alert is important because you can set it up pretty freely. So you can set it up to for every team inside of your company, or you can just find these really important teams inside of your company or groups, and you can set this alert to be there. In such a way, you're ensuring that your security and that everything is according to your company governance. So these alerting capabilities that we do have in Siskit Point are more of this proactive monitoring of your own environment in such a way that we give you information when it happens. So you do not have to worry about like it happened 3 days ago. No, you get an alert at the moment it happens. So I think this is a really, really important thing. Also, something that goes around with this talk about diffusion of responsibility and these primary secondary contexts that we talked about is this access reviews, which are really important. And we added a minor improvement here. So in a world where the best practice is to have at least 2 owners of every resources, so that somebody can always be there to show ownership of the group or team, we added a notification that when one owner completes the access review, other owners are going to get a notification that the review has been completed. So for example, if Alexandra and I are owners of some kind of team and Alexandra does the review inside of the Siskit point, I get a notification and then I can review it, or we can collaborate and see what we did there. And in such a way, we are going to allow our users more accountability, definitely, with this feature. So these are a couple of these small improvements that we like to mention here. So I'm going to give it over to Alexander to tell us a bit about what's coming to Point in the close future.
Thank you, Hrvoje. So for the very end of our today's session, I would just like to give you a brief overview of what we're working on next in Point. So first of all, we are thinking about creating a more customizable template availability experience. So what does that actually mean? For example, if you have some templates that are specific for a group of users, for example, for your finance or legal team, and you do not want other employees to see them, you could actually define the groups that will see certain templates. Furthermore, the metadata we showed you today, including primary, secondary, contacts, and departments, will be possible to be completely customizable by you. So you can add custom metadata fields for your teams and groups. Then we move on to the guest user provisioning automation. So a similar flow as we have with access reviews and other policy enforcement automations, only for enabling guest users in your environment, so that you can really stay on top of that, who is actually having access to your environment. And last but not least, another automation regarding data classification. So you will actually be able to ask your owners to classify all the existing teams and groups in your environment. I cannot emphasize this more, but please, if you do have any feedback on these topics, would like to take part in our usability testing sessions or user interviews, please reach out to us on feedback@siskit.com, as well as if you have any other suggestions, we are always open to it. All right, so to wrap this up, I will give my word back to Patrick to see if we have some questions today.
Okay, thank you both for the awesome presentation. I'm sure that the audience also here appreciated all the information we provided for the new features that we brought to the Siskit point. And yeah, let's now take a look at some questions. So if you didn't have the chance to send us the question, feel free now to reach out to your GoToWebinar interface and submit your question. We do have a great question from Dustin. So Dustin, thank you very much for being here with us. And the question is there a web-based self-service portal for requesting a workspace, or is it only accessible within the Teams client? Regarding provisioning.
Yeah, I can take that question. So currently we are only supporting Microsoft Teams as a way for your self-service, but the option to do that through our Siskit Point web application is also something that is on our roadmap, and we are actually actively looking into that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for the answer. Yeah, so again, great question, Dustin. So yeah, please, others, if you feel free now to send any additional question. Maybe also again to you, Hrvoje, a common question we heard lately was, can you provision document libraries as well? So
currently not, but it's also something that we are looking at. So we focus first on allowing our users to provision every different kind of resources. So SharePoint sites, Microsoft 365 group, Yammer communities, and then we'll also look, as Alexander already mentioned, into guest access provisioning, and also into provisioning some kind of document libraries and folders in near future.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so maybe last question we had also recently on the last session. If some changes needs to be done in the created workspace, for example, changing the owner that was already in the template, can the admin make that change?
Yes, so the admin can change the template, and then admin can also use Siskit Point to change all the owners inside of that template using our capabilities inside of Siskit Point.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, so guys, if you don't have any question at this present moment, don't worry, you always can get back to us anytime in the future. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for joining us, and a reminder that who registered for this event will receive the recording of the session within a few days. If you have, again, any questions regarding Siskit-Point or any of our other products, please reach out to us at sales@siskit.com. And it was a pleasure having you all here. So see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Everybody, bye.